The Economist recently carried a story about India's environment, headlined, "Why is India one of the most polluted countries on Earth?" The Economic Times followed this with a story headlined, "India alarmingly filthy even by standards of poor countries." Nobody living here can deny it. Most of our lakes and rivers are severely poisoned with urban and chemical effluents. The air in most of the cities, particularly in North India, is polluted well beyond the prescribed levels. Even without reading these, it is now quite apparent that 6 years after the Prime Minister announced Swachh Bharat Abhiyan with much fanfare, it is apparent that we cannot clean up the rotting trash that has become so common on our streets all over the country. Men can be seen all over the country peeing on walls or into the air. It is almost impossible to find any pavements in our towns and cities, and when there are some, they are strewn with trash and wet with urine. Simple logic tells us we need a lot more trash bins and public toilets, but that is the easy part. Keeping them clean and usable is the more difficult part. Clearly, we are failing. We have a system of high-cost government with low returns. We need a newer and better way of managing ourselves. Visiting the Banaras Hindu University on February 4, 1916, Mahatma Gandhi in his address said, "I visited the Vishwanath temple last evening. If a stranger dropped from above onto this great temple, would he not be justified in condemning us? Is it right that the lanes of our sacred temples should be as dirty as they are? If even our temples are not models of cleanliness, what can our self-government be? We do not know elementary laws of cleanliness. We spit everywhere. The result is indescribable filth." In the 104 years since then, things have only worsened. We not only spit everywhere, we piss everywhere, we defecate wherever and dump our garbage anywhere. India is easily the most dirty, unhygienic and filthy country in the world. Picking up from here, our Prime Minister had launched the Swachh Bharat campaign to clean up India. He announced an ambitious campaign to build home toilets for 12 million urban households, 25 million public toilets, and 30 million community toilets. In all, over 300 million were to be helped with solid waste management practices, and this was to be achieved by 2019 at a cost of Rs. 62,009 crore. This was not a sum that we could not afford. Will India become a cleaner, healthier and more hygienic nation, less offensive to sight and smell? I didn't think so then, and now it is apparent that the Swachh Bharat campaign has so far been more of a failure than a success. Though the Prime Minister must be lauded for flagging this as a priority, intentions are not everything. He did not think of ways to implement the plans. The PM's ambitions were huge. He also promised to build 100 smart cities with 24/7 drinking water, zero garbage disposal, and total solid waste management with full-scale drainage and sewerage systems. A look at East Delhi today will tell you that not little, but nothing has happened in this BJP-controlled municipality. It's the same all over the country. The BJP's manifesto promised 100 new cities because new cities are imperative, as by 2050, India will almost double its present urban population by adding another 450 million people. It is this urbanization that will also be its major driver of economic growth. But even if we find the money, where is the public administration to do it? We now have a highly centralized system more suitable to governing India than serving India. The structure of our public administration, with its preponderance at the national and state capitals and with a tiny fraction left to interface with citizens at a local level, and even these not being answerable to citizens, is at the root of our inability to transform this country. When India became independent, Jawaharlal Nehru advocated disbanding the British-inherited civil service and wanted a new system of public administration that will not just preserve order to facilitate extraction, but will drive change and equitable development. Sardar Patel, however, was against such a radical transformation of government and preferred India to be administered by an elite civil service such as the ICS. This led to the creation of the IAS and IPS as the main instruments of administration. But the system remained as before, a system to maintain control rather than transform. The consequences of this are still apparent. The three levels of government together employ about 185 lakh persons. The central government employs 34 lakhs. All the state governments together employ another 72.18 lakhs. Quasi-government agencies account for a further 58.14 lakhs. And at the local government level, a tier with the most interface with the common citizens. Meta said that it took down over 13.8 million pieces of bad content across 13 policies for Facebook and over 4.8 million pieces of objectionable content across 12 policies for Instagram in India in February. In February, Facebook received 18,512 reports through the Indian grievance mechanism and said that it provided tools for users to resolve their issues in 9,300 cases. These include pre-established channels to report content for specific violations, self-remediation flows where they can download their data, avenues to address account-hacked issues, etc. Meta said in its monthly report in compliance with the IT, Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code, Rules 2021. Of the other 9,212 reports where specialized review was needed, we analyzed content as per our policies and took action on 2,970 complaints in total. The remaining 6,242 grievances were reviewed but may not have been actioned, Meta added. On Instagram, the company received 12,709 reports through the Indian grievance mechanism. Of these, we provided tools for users to resolve their issues in 5,344 cases, it said. Of the other 7,365 reports where specialized review was needed, Meta analyzed content and took action on 2,470 complaints in total. The remaining 4,895 reports were reviewed but may not have been actioned. Under the new IT Rules 2021, big digital and social media platforms with more than 5 million users have to publish monthly compliance reports. We measure the number of pieces of content, such as posts, photos, videos, or comments. We take action for going against our standards. Taking action could include removing a piece of content from Facebook or Instagram, or covering photos or videos that may be disturbing to some audiences with a warning, said Meta. In January, Meta took down over 17.8 million pieces of content across 13 policies for Facebook and over 4.8 million pieces of objectionable content across 12 policies for Instagram. Having lived in US for last 6 years and having traveled to many countries during my days in the Indian Navy, I had always wondered, why is India so dirty? Each time, I assumed that it is just a matter of time. Once the economy grows and there is prosperity all around, these things will follow, and very soon we will look like one of those spick-and-span European countries or something like Singapore or Japan. My recent visit to India, followed by a visit to Singapore, brought this question to the fore again. Why is dirt all-pervasive in India? This problem is not limited to the slums or the ghettos. Even the new Bengaluru airport is not spared. Just walk around and you will spot filth easily, it much less but there nevertheless. There is a huge amount of human capital and investment made to maintain the airport in a somewhat clean state. Taken that support off, and I am sure the airport will resemble a garbage dump very soon. Why is this problem so endemic? What happened to Swachh Bharat? Is population or education the problem? If so, then why are more densely populated countries like Singapore or Japan not dirty? The number of Indians living in developed countries is increasing every year. Thousands live amongst the local population in these countries and take part in maintaining these cities clean. How come the same set of people can't keep our own country clean? I think there are three fundamental problems. First is the attitude. Cleaning is somebody else's job. I refer primarily to the cleaning of the toilets or common areas here. However, cleaning of other areas can also be included in most cases. This thought process has its roots in the class or the caste system outlawed decades ago, but prevalent all around. Cleaning is the job of the safaiwalas, sweepers, maids, servants. Majority of the middle-class households have servants who take care of cleaning. They are considered lower class and treated as such. I remember that in my home we had a separate cup and plate for the servants. They sit on the floor and use a back door. Even now, in educated high-class apartment societies, there are discussions on why servants should not be using the main elevators and a toilet be designated for their use. I would request my Indian friends to read the book or see the movie Help on how, in the 1950s, the African American maids were treated by their white masters. In India, we treat our help even worse, well into the 21st century.